Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Disable the Label podcast. I'm your host, Kerry Winfield, and this is the place where we amplify voices, break down barriers, and celebrate stories from across the disability community. This season, we're bringing you even more inspiring guests, raw conversations, and empowering insights to spark change and create connection. Whether you're part of the disability community, a parent, professional, or an ally, we are here for you. So let's get comfy, hit play, and join us as we continue to disable the label and redefine what's possible. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we have Ruth. Ruth, introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm really pleased to be here today. Thanks so much for inviting me. So I'm Ruth Patil. I'm mum to two gorgeous girls. I'd probably call them young women now because the eldest is now 20 and the youngest is coming up for 18, which is rather scary. So yeah, two gorgeous young women in my life, the youngest of whom has Down syndrome. And then I'm also development director at Carers Worldwide, which is a small international development charity working with family carers in India, Nepal and Bangladesh.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know this is going to be kind of a very interesting podcast for people to listen to. So let's start by talking and telling us a little bit about your background and how you've kind of been involved within the disability sector.
Sure. So I originally trained as a speech and language therapist and worked in the NHS. So I worked primarily with children with a range of disabilities and also primarily with younger children. And I did a lot of training parents and teaching staff as well, which I loved. I then chose to go and do a stint volunteering my skills in India. I'd always been interested in going to a country in the global south and looking at how I could share my skills with people there. I was lucky enough to get this volunteering opportunity. So I worked on a community disability project in South India. And basically my role was to train the local staff there about communication and how they could, support and develop communication skills in the whole range of disabled children that they were working with there. So I did that for a while. I had originally was supposed to go for 9 months, but then I loved it so much I went back again, and I ended up meeting my husband and ended up living there for 6 years. Came back to the UK after 6 years, married and pregnant with my first child. So that's how life takes you. So when I came back to the UK, you never know what curveballs are going to be.
No, definitely not.
Came back to the UK and first daughter was born. She had some medical issues and needed spinal cord surgery when she was just a month old. So that was quite a roller coaster and was under the care of Great Ormond Street Hospital. So we made the decision to stay back here in the UK for her care, essentially. So I went back into working with the NHS, and that was all fine, kind of slotted back into that again. And then our second daughter, Maya, was born a couple of years later. And when she was born, we found out she had Down syndrome. So having sort of spent, my professional life with disability, I then had this very personal perspective thrown onto it as well. So it's been quite a journey since then, seeing disability from the other side, if you like, alongside Maya and alongside, all the other parents that I've met on the journey.
Yeah, totally. So what changed for you when your daughter was born? Obviously not just I would say personally and, professionally, I suppose, because obviously that probably changed you as a professional as well, not just as a mum.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, when I became a mum the first time, it changed me. I think, as a mum, I achieved sort of greater empathy with the parents I was working with. So that was there anyway. And then having Maya with Down syndrome, this that kind of morphed even further, I think, and
Yeah.
really got me to sort of, challenging myself a little bit more about what I was able to offer to parents and children. And unfortunately, I just found it increasingly difficult to stay working within a system that I knew couldn't provide what children and families really needed and really deserved. Now, we're so lucky to have the NHS and our, education system here in the UK, and there are some incredible professionals, who kind of dedicate their lives to the children and families that they work with. But at that point in time, I was really struggling to reconcile my day job with what I was experiencing as the mum of a disabled child, and the struggles I was having to access the right support for her. So I had a lot on my hands, kind of looking after two children, and my husband was away, and so at that point I just decided to take a career break and sort of take stock how I could best use my skills, if you like.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think that's a really hot, like, it's a really interesting situation to be in, because you're learning even more in depth, of what other parents have been through, you're
Mm.
experiencing as it going, and then being a professional who's worked with disabled children, throughout their professional life. It kind of throws another side of it. You're always very aware, obviously, as a professional,
Mm.
of how the parents feel, but you can never
Mm.
put yourself in their shoes until you are, and obviously you have then had that experience as well. So yeah, I can only imagine that that was kind of an interesting time for you to kind of deal with that. So
Mm.
how did you know then that you wanted to use your experience to help others after becoming a mum? How
Mm.
did you kind of navigate that?
Sure, yeah. Um, I think for me, it's always been all about sharing my skills and my experiences as widely as I can. Not because I think, I've got all the skills, and, I certainly don't have all the skills, and, I don't have all the experiences, but I hope I have something that I can share, with other parents that can be of some support to them, and can also, guide and signpost them towards what's right for their families, I suppose. So um, I was really lucky to have here in Hertfordshire, we have a local Down syndrome support group called Up on Downs. So I was very lucky to, been put in touch with them very early on in our journey with Maya. And so I was able to sort of, offer some of my professional skills to some of those families, which was it was personally really nice for me because I was able to feel that I wasn't losing my skills,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot from it, and hopefully the other parents and their kids benefited as well, I suppose. Um,
Yeah, totally.
so yeah, so that was how I was able to kind of share those speech and language therapy skills, if you like. I think the broader experience of being a mum of a disabled child, and sort of how you learn and how you navigate that journey. Again, that's always been really important, to just be free, with my experiences, free with those, and talk to other parents if that can be of support. And I think that probably that feeling was then what led on to the sort of next stage in the journey, if you like, which was basically setting up our own charity. Um, so my husband and I reached a point. He was being made redundant, and we're thinking about what was coming next. Maya was about 5 years old at this point, and we got to thinking about our situation as parents to a disabled child, and what it must be like for those parents in countries like India, where I'd previously worked and where my husband was born and brought up. what must it be like for them, coping with the impact of having a disabled child, of caring and of navigating the system. And so we did some consultation. We talked to people in India, talked to organizations there, working with disability, to try and sort of understand what they were doing for parents, what they were doing for carers, and assuming that there would be things there for carers, and how could we support those. But actually what we found was that nobody was even thinking about the needs of the carers. So, definitely lots of amazing organizations working with disability, but not thinking of the impact of that on the parents, or the wife, if it's a husband who's become disabled, for example. So
Yeah.
just that impact that caring does have on you, physically and emotionally and financially. So yeah, so no one else was kind of considering that, and so we thought, right, well, let's do something about that. And so
Yeah, totally.
we set up a new charity, Carers Worldwide, and 10 years down the line, it's still running and having huge impact. So yeah.
It's just unbelievably amazing for me. Like, I know there's loads of people doing great things out there, but I know how navigating your own child's life is difficult in for one aspect, but for you to then also then be like, I still want to be able to help others, and I can still like navigate my child's life while helping others do the same with either with their children, in other countries, or if it's like a parent, a partner, etc. And I think that's just, honestly, it's amazing that you guys went into doing that. So that's just fantastic. So how do you then think carers can be more supported, not just only in this country, I suppose? Like, I know when we chatted, you kind of explained that the carers, what carers are going through in this country is the same thing as in all those other places. It's not too dissimilar in fact. So yeah, I wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, carers the world over have a great deal in common. So, our individual situations may be different, the context is different, the level of support and understanding is different, but at the heart of it all, we are people who probably never thought that we would be in this situation. And we've embraced it, and it is a joy. It's a pleasure, but it does come with a personal impact, and I think that personal impact is the same the world over. I think first of all, that feeling of perhaps people don't understand what it is that you're dealing with. So being aware of the impact that caring does have, feeling that you can't ask for help, or you can't ask for a break, and then wanting some practical support but not necessarily receiving it. So I think it's really important. Here in the UK, there needs to be a lot more done for carers. There needs to be a lot more practical support, not just kind of talking and saying, oh yes, we recognize you. That's only the first
Yeah.
step. We need more kind of joined up thinking between organizations. Not getting political, but we need the government to really look at the whole picture for carers, and come up with a national strategy. So there's lots more that needs to be done, both
Yeah.
here and also in the countries where we're working.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I think, that's obviously why, for me, having been that professional working with parents and their kids, I saw that as well, and I always could only imagine what they were going through. But if I could give as much help and support as possible, but I always recognise that why are we not all working as one, team in a way? Yes, we are different organisations. Yes, we're doing different things. Yes, some are are for profit, some are not, but actually if we all work together, it would just work so much better, and parents and carers out there would get so much support, not just emotionally but like physical, and know where to go and get these things. But you're right, you know, it's the asking for help is sometimes, or knowing where to ask for that help, I suppose, you know, that is can be one of those biggest things for carers out there. So do the carers that you're working with, you know, feel the same? I know we kind of covered this a little bit, but how are the carers that you're working with feel, and, you know, how do you work and navigate that?
Sure. Yeah, as I said, you know, they really are just the same as us. And, you know, the issues that they're facing are just the same as us. You know, sadly, I don't get a lot of opportunity to visit the countries where we're working. So obviously, I have my caring responsibilities here, but you know, and my husband does most of the travel. But I have been able to go on occasion recently, and I visited Nepal. It was the first time I'd ever been to Nepal, and I just have this vivid memory of sitting in this parents' home. So we'd climbed up this mountain, and I was hot and bothered and wishing I'd, kept up with my fitness classes at home, feeling very, out of puff. And I was being offered more and more hot, sweet tea and thinking, oh my goodness, I can't drink much more of this. So, I was feeling quite overwhelmed at the whole situation. But then, I sat down in this person's home and, met this mother of a disabled child, and just straight away all of that fell away, and you just immediately feel that solidarity. It was quite emotional, just she is experiencing the same things as I'm experiencing, in terms of worry for her child, what's going to happen to them, is she doing the best she can for them, and being sort of exhausted by her own caring that she was doing. So yeah, just immediate solidarity. We didn't speak the same language verbally, but we could connect. So yes, it is just the same. And that feeling of pride and joy in that caring role, but also that feeling of being sort of weighed down by the impact of it, and of trying to navigate the journey with your child. And I think a lot of similar concerns to those of carers here. So we've done lots of evidence gathering with the carers that we work with, and the figures are stark. So it's something like 86% of the carers that we've met over there and that we work with are feeling lonely and isolated. 76% of them are experiencing sort of discrimination and stigma from their community. 73% of them have got their own health problems. The majority of them worry financially. So, I think those concerns really resonate with carers here. And, that's what drives us on, really, with the organisation and everything that we do at Carers Worldwide, because, there are no safety nets over there. There is no recognition of carers, and so there's no support systems for them. What we have here is flawed, but there is something at least. Whereas, there's no carers allowance over there. There's no respite. There's no emotional support. So those are all the kinds of things that we work on, and that we try and put into place for the carers that we're working with.
Yeah, it's just amazing, like, hearing that story. You're totally right. You have that total connection, and there is always going to be, with anybody who is a carer, the fear of the unknown, I suppose, the fear of what's going to happen next, the fear of the future, but also like that how proud they are of that person that they have in their family that might be disabled. So yeah, I think I don't know what the right word is, so nice, but I think it's good for other parents to hear that it's not just them in the UK feeling this way. It is across the world, right? And you know, that means they have that, they can get that special connection with other carers, and that I think is key, right? You know, that parent that met you in Nepal is probably changed her life forever, because she knows that it's not just her, right?
Absolutely.
So what advice then would you give to parents and carers over here that you've kind of learned in your life and your life experience, but also, you know, working experience as well?
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's interesting that you say, you know, in life and my working life. I think, you know, what I've found is that my personal life feeds my working life, and my working life feeds my personal life. So I think, you know, that I have had the opportunity to develop my understanding of caring and being a carer, and of disability. You know, I've been able to develop that for myself personally, and that has benefited Maya, and it's benefited other parents that I work with here. And then obviously my personal experiences feed into my working life, and benefit those. So it's been a really sort of virtuous circle, if you like. So I think, you
Yeah.
know, my advice would be based on all of that kind of mashed up together, I suppose. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, the most the most important thing to remember is that you're not alone. Um, so, you know, it may feel like you're alone sometimes, and it can feel very isolating. Um, but, you know, just remember that you're not alone. And yes, you know, there are other people in your town, your country, and literally globally, who are going through the same thing. And, you know, try and draw some strength from that. And try to, you know, to try and reach out. It's not always easy to reach out and connect with other people. And, you know, what works for me doesn't necessarily work for the next person. But, you know, I think we're lucky nowadays in that, um, there's a lot more online support than there was, you know, when Maya was born 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were lucky to benefit from physical support groups, and that's great. And, you know, if you have those in your area, try and reach out to them. But yes, you know, there's lots more online support now. You know, there's organized groups, there's lots of groups on Facebook, there's syndrome or disability specific groups. There's a great organization called Mobilize, who have a huge online offer for carers. So yeah, try, you know, get on Google and, and try and find some support, whether it be physical or online. And I think the other thing I would say is about, having a voice. So, you know, don't be scared to, you know, stand up for your child, or whoever it is that you're caring for, and, you know, stand up for yourself. You know, there shouldn't be stigma and discrimination in this day and age, but unfortunately, you know, sadly, there is. And, you know, that's still there the world over. But, you know, you deserve a voice, and your child deserves a voice, or someone to speak for them. So, you know, just always remember that, and take strength in that, I think. And, you know, try and, comes back to the support groups again, but, you know, try and seek out other people who are sort of speaking up and advocating, for the rights of disability, and for the rights of carers. And you know, align yourself with that, really, and take courage from that. I think those would be my main points.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and you're right. Reaching out is key, and I think, like, for us at Disable the Label, that's why we've kind of tried to push that onto parents and say, look, if you're searching for something, rather than you search, we can do that for you. So just, like, you know, message us, get in contact, reach out to those organizations that can do that for you, so that you don't have to then do all those hours of searching. But you're right, online is a massive difference. But I also know that there's a counteractive of that, is a lot of parents coming through have less in person and less kind of I suppose that physical, which is different, isn't it? It's very different to have that physical meeting somebody, whether that be because your child goes on transport to school or, you know, there's just no groups, physical groups. But yeah, online, not only you having your own online presence and people reaching out to you that way, but there are thousands of groups, absolutely, that cover all kinds of various different disabilities or areas or just subjects, whether it be holidays or just kind of general equipment or just general the day-to-day life. So there are support mechanisms out there, definitely. So how can people follow you guys and find you and see what you're doing? And kind of, I think it's just amazing what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you. So we have a website. So the name of the organisation is Carers Worldwide. So we have a website, which is www.carersworldwide.org. Or if you just Google Carers Worldwide, we come up. And then we're on pretty much every social media platform you can think of, just at Carers Worldwide. So come and give us a follow on whatever you're on, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X. We still just put that on there. So yeah, come and find us where you want to. And yeah, give us a follow, get involved. We always love to hear from other carers. We love to hear people's experiences. Particularly if you've got experience of living in one of the countries that we work in, India, Nepal or Bangladesh, it'd be great to have a chat and have a conversation. So yeah, have a look at the website. There's lots on there. Have a look around and you can see more about the work that we're doing and the projects that we're running. And yeah, feel free to get in touch. That'd be great.
Yeah, of course. I will put all the details as well in the show notes of the podcast, so you'll be able to just click on the links to your website and your Facebook and Instagram pages as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Ruth, for coming on and chatting. It's been really, really nice. I'm really grateful for you coming on. So yeah, thank you for sharing your story with everybody else. I think it's going to be very inspirational, but also people can relate to how you've been and gone through your life. So yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Disable Label Podcast. We hope you've been inspired, empowered, and reminded that together we are stronger. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. If you have a story to share or want to be one of our next guests, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep breaking barriers, keep lifting each other up, and as always, keep disabling those labels.